Okay, here we are, and welcome to another edition of the HicTop Prusa i3 assembly. We left off with the hotbed assembly. Hotbed assembly. Now we're going to get to the wires. These actually just plug right on the back of this thing. The screws and everything went on just like they said. The issue is right here, you're going to see that these wing nuts are actually going to hit here if they're at 90 degrees to it. So they're going to smack that thing. So you're going to have to watch out. Keep them lined up. Later on, actually trade them out for those little thumb wheels that'll clear this. They actually make some that can go in between this plate and the bed. The moment we've all waited for, the extruder assembly. This is going to get where it's going to be somewhat tricky, but it's not really painful or difficult. I can get the little window going so you can see what I'm doing down here. This was already assembled on here as a sub-assembly, so we're not over here tightening while either this is sliding back and forth, or even if it has a belt on, it's still going to rotate the motor, so it's all together there. What you're going to want to do is put this together as an assembly. These two pieces, making sure this drive is centered on this thing. That actually was put on as a sub-assembly on here. It's right here. It'll go on. Right now we want to actually get this on there so we can get it going. You notice, rather than using a jack, I've got these handy little clamps, and they can actually clamp that up, hold it up, keep that up. Another thing I want to stop and point out is also with the parametric screws, I've gone ahead, followed a flat on there, so the flat will actually come down and engage the set screw. You only want these things to come down right about here. You don't want this thing to go all the way down into this coupling. That'll stiffen it up and put some pressure on these things. You want to keep it up here, floating like a drive shaft in your car. Now for the fan, the heat sink, and all this. This is where people had issues with this thing. They show this kind of going together rather easy. However, in one of the other videos from another guy, this screw was sticking out, so that when this heat sink went on there, it came up over here. It pushed it up past that level. You can actually see, if you take a straight edge, come over there, you want that screw to be flush or below that. Otherwise you're going to kick it up. So his solution was to kind of mark this and grind it up. You know, take a Dremel and open that up. Well, you know, yeah, that's going to be fine. It's not going to make it back out any farther. It's going to come up against there, but you're not going to get some float. You're not going to get some adjustment. Well, that was cute. The other thing is we're going to stop and do a casing descent on that. We're going to just come over here, grab our 1930 model Dremel, and just butcher the heck out of this thing. Probably take my nail gun and probably nail a board up there and show you guys how it's done on paper, but no, let's just not say we didn't. So anyway, my solution to that was there we go. What I did was, in putting all this together, the print of this part actually made a step rather than a bevel. So my solution was actually a number 4 center drill. It gives the approximate 82 degrees here that allows you to come in there, give it just enough bevel to clean that out, that step out of there, and or give it a recess just enough for this screw to come back down there and fit in there. And the pressure off that. This part right here is actually small enough to where they actually use that as a threaded assembly. That actually becomes the nut per se. So again, get that down. Get that as flush as can be. Check your action. Make sure that rolls. There's no binding in there. And that'll take care of the heat sink mounting flush up against that right there. Okay, now that we have that, the other issue itself was the heat sink. The way these are made is out of a solid block, and they take a saw and they cut this. Well, when you drill holes in there, these fins break off. So what you want to do is clear any of the leftover debris and deburr this. The other thing you want to ensure is the distance on the bolts to go through here. And I like to stick them on the back side rather than where they're supposed to go, to kind of check the spacing and the parallelism of those bolts. What I found I had to do was not really drill this out. You kind of really don't want to round this out or oblong it. What I've done is take jeweler's files, square this inside to this square that's formed by these fins the way it's sawtooth. So put some corners in there, made it a little square so that you can actually take care of your width this way and the out of degrees this way. That way when you do put it together, it's not only going to fit in here like it's supposed to. Get this and put it in there. Get this in there. Now you got plenty of adjustment in here, and not so big around that these standoffs are going to go right through there. But this is an old trick, is squaring that up rather than making a round hole. Once that's done, you can note that the fan actually has directions of the airflow on arrows. So when you're hooked up to the positive and negative correctly, this is the direction of the flow. So it's going to go, you know, out that way. Okay. Now that that's done, we're showing that that's nice and squared up. We can now put the fan on where it goes in between that. Another good tip is put yourself a flat on these washers so they'll sit down on this wire and be flush rather than sitting up and getting this where it's a little bit cockeyed when that goes in there. Once that's done, this can slide in, come in here, a little bit of a float, a little bit of adjustment. That'll come like that, and it's actually going to sit real nice like it's supposed to. So it's actually going to go in there and be like this, be able to function properly. Of course, all that is going to go right on here. It's going to go in between this and this. Nice little table to work with. This, of course, is going to go up in here. You're going to set this flush with that bevel so the filament can come down there and extrude through that properly. You're then going to take this fan, check its fit and function. It's going to come in here and sit like so. Another thing is the limit switches. They get assembled like this. It gets assembled up on here. It adjusts up and down. And at a later point, we're going to upgrade this where we have a micrometer screw adjustment to be able to adjust this with just a plain driver rather than loosening the bolts and smacking this up and down and fighting with it. So you can see I've laid all these wires out to be able to get them. Otherwise, you have a spaghetti mess here. So with that said, I'm going to pause and put this up here, on here, assemble the limit switches, put my hot end on, put my fan on, and get this like this. Another thing you're going to notice is I've already taken care of the mechanical and put the LCD mount on there itself, put the filament holder, it kind of drops in there like so, kind of put it where it goes, and then we'll be right back.